Welcome to Because of Liberty. I'm your host, Curtis Hart, and today I will be reacting to a random article that my girlfriend is going to be reading.
So we have 6 ways socialism is superior to capitalism.
Well, first of all, it's not. Because Liberty.
How would socialism address and fix the terrible problems of a capitalist society? What do you think they're going to say?
What I think that they would say?
Mm-hmm.
Probably some crap about capitalism isn't fair. Capitalism isn't fair. It doesn't matter how you feel. Capitalism doesn't care about anything other than your results for the most part. Like if you produce and you can sell whatever you produce, then that's about it.
Yeah, it's a simple concept.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept. Like you get what you work for, and you get what you work for. Like you get what you deserve, and you deserve what you work for, and that's about it.
Okay, so number 1, this is how socialism is better than capitalism and how it's going to fix our capitalistic ways. So here we go.
The only thing about capitalism that needs to be fixed is to have government completely taken out of it so that the free market is actually a free market, because we've never actually had a free market in society because of statism and government interference.
Okay, 1, eliminating competition as a basis for survival. I'm not even sure I understand where this is going, but let me read on. Capitalism is premised first and foremost on competition between individuals. Yes. When Walmart said they had 800 jobs in D.C., 24,000 workers showed up applying for those jobs. That meant 23,200 of them did not get the job. They lost out on this opportunity due to competition.
Yeah, because this is why they didn't get the job, because there was other people that were better than them that applied for the job. There was other people that more than likely had better resumes, had better work history, better skills. I'm sure there was probably a lot of crackheads that applied, and the non-crackheads would most likely be chosen over the crackheads in general. Yeah, there's if you were gonna hire somebody, who are you gonna hire? Adult or somebody with some skills? Like, are you gonna hire a person that doesn't want to do the job as well as, or can do the job as well as the person that can? Do you want a crap employee? No, nobody wants a crap employee.
If you want to go to college, you're competing to get accepted. If you want an apartment, you're competing to get accepted. And if you don't have enough money, you can't compete. You've lost the race before you've even started. Some people do get the apartment, though.
So what they're saying is, like, if you apply for a job, and it's not fair that they can't give everybody a job. Like, here's part of the problem. If that's like one of their arguments, why don't you get rid of the minimum wage? Because if you get rid of the minimum wage and not have the government telling businesses how much they have to pay their employees, then they would be able to hire more people. And like, if you have, let's just say, $100 in your budget per hour for labor, and you have 10 people, you could pay them $10 an hour. If the minimum wage is $10 an hour, that's your max. If they didn't have a minimum wage, they could hire pretty much as many people as they feel like, as long as the people are willing to accept the wage. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to get into school, a school has a limited amount of seats in it. So they're obviously going to take the more qualified candidates to get into school. And who's going to rent a house to somebody with like just crap work history, no job, like drug addicts, like especially like tweakers, crackheads, and smackheads. Like they all pretty much look like drug addicts. So yeah, there's limited amount of housing that's going to go to the people that work the hardest.
So here's where it gets just
call me an elitist. Call me an elitist. I am an elitist.
The ending of competition between workers returns the human family to the condition under which human beings have lived for 95% of our existence. Human nature is not one of greed or dog-eat-dog competition. That is learned. We know in indigenous societies, those societies which existed for tens of thousands of years before the origin of class society, there was no such thing as private property. There was only shared communal property. Socialism is the first step in returning human beings to the society in which our species developed, based on solidarity, cooperation, and interaction with each other based only on equality.
Like, I don't... Their claim is that private property, like, doesn't exist?
Yes, and that we used to operate being not so greedy. So
But, like, before, like, when it was just tribalism,
yeah,
okay, like,
everybody had to share.
they, not only did they have to share because they're, like, they needed each other to survive and whatnot, but, like, they went on raiding parties to, like, other tribes and stole their private property. Like, you can believe something doesn't exist all you want, but it doesn't make it less so. Like, private property totally exists. If you would like to see that it doesn't, just like come to my house and try to take my stuff and see what happens. I'll show you that private property does exist.
Okay. So, number 2, no more recessions or depressions.
Like, just none? Because, like, if you get rid of capitalism, there's not going to be any recessions or depressions?
Nope.
What
Not
about, like,
article.
all the starvation that socialism has created and communism?
They're in a constant state of depression.
Yeah. Constantly.
This
Like, they
is
constantly are
another
like, no
big
food.
way
There's no food.
Socialism is superior. Capitalist production leads every 5 or 10 years to recession. In other words, when the capitalists can't sell all the product they've produced in order to maximize their own greedy profits, they lay off millions and millions of workers. Look at what happened during the current economic crisis. 9 million families lost their homes after the biggest housing construction boom in history, which was between 1998 and 2007.
Yeah, that's because the banks were giving out loans to people that couldn't afford them. That's why that happened. They were giving out people like that were literally working 8 hours a week.
Socialism
Ask me how I know.
ends depression and recession completely by rationally and democratically planning the economy on the basis of meeting human needs. Poor and working people will determine what is produced under what conditions, not the rich.
Yeah, central planning, like...
They just said it right there. They're all going to be poor.
Yeah. So a socialist will look at, like, a rich person's house and think to themselves, nobody should live like that. Whereas a capitalist is like, everybody should live like that. Just go get the money, go get the job done. Spend it on wise things. Pay your bills on time. You can have these things. Like, the central planning whole issue is just ridiculous because they break up, you know, the stuff and decide where it should go, and it doesn't really work out like that because, you know, capitalism is based off like supply and demand. If there's a demand, somebody will meet the supply. With central planning, they just decide for you, like, there's how much we're going to produce. And, like, they don't take into account all sorts of things, like, I guess probably people having more babies so they need more food. Just like, I don't know, what is it, Venezuela? How's socialism working out there? Like, they're a pretty socialist country, and they're starving, rioting in the streets.
Yeah. You ready for number 3?
I guess.
Scientific advancement belongs to all society. Another reason socialism is superior, it ends intellectual property rights. Intellectual property rights are a form of thievery by one small sect of society over the rest of society. Right now, there are 4 companies competing with each other, all secretly to make this perfect sleeping pill. They're all competing with each other so that at the end of the day, the Food and Drug Administration can give only one of them a patent that says, you discovered it first. You get a 17 year-long patent, which means you have the exclusive right to sell that sleeping pill and inevitably jack up the price by however much you want. Think about the waste of energy, resources, and talent that goes into this scenario.
So this is like, again, like they're thinking that like everybody should get the job. Like, what are they talking about wasting talent? Because like in the real world, only so many people can work on a project. Mm-hmm. But according to these socialists, like everybody has to have the job. Everybody should get the job. It shouldn't matter on based off their skill, or what do they call it? Ableism, ableists, like people that are able to do the job. And just the whole like what you work for, like go to school for, the knowledge that you obtain, you end up inventing something, and according to them, like you don't have the right to sell it. You got to share it automatically. I mean, that would be grand, but how many people would be working their butts off to come up with stuff? Like,
this is great. So ending this number here, it talks about how the Soviet Union would never have been able to launch Sputnik and have the first space vehicle if they weren't a communist.
What?
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
They're just saying a thing. Listen, socialism is a more productive system because it eliminates intellectual property rights. The reason the Soviet Union could launch Sputnik and have the first space vehicle was that all the scientists worked together. The property belonged to the people through the agency of states, not between different competing capitalist corporations.
Yeah, because there's just like a ton of, socialist corporations out there that are, launching cars into space, like Elon Musk.
Well, all the scientists work together because that they do that. They make
That's
a team.
where they go.
That's how they would do it in a capitalist corporation.
Yeah.
There would be a team of scientists working on it. They would work together, and then the company who brought that team together profits.
Yes, and like that company, like they go out and they pick the most able-bodied, able-minded, actually, smartest people. They most definitely like hire based on skill, because according to these socialists, like everybody should get the job. So like somebody like me should be able to like work on the spaceship if I want to, because it's just my feels.
So this one says, I mean, if we don't turn back to communism, the plan is just going to pretty much implode anyways.
Well, America's like pretty much a socialist commie country anyways. We have central planning committees all over the place. We have the federal government back in Washington, D.C. telling us how to live our life. We have people up in Olympia telling us how to live our life. Even all the way over the county building. Like, that's what they do. They tell you how to live your life. They put limitations on businesses, tell them what they can and can't sell, how much they have to pay people. Like, we have the minimum wage. I don't think the minimum wage should be a thing. I've already explained why. Because you can hire more people. More people could be working if you didn't have that. So this one, I'm just not understanding this. I don't understand all of it so far, but this says 4, saving the planet from what will otherwise be certain destruction. Certain destruction. So I remember when I was in 6th grade, I went to outdoor school at CISPAS, and I specifically remember my music teacher telling us, all as kids, that we needed to enjoy the forest because by the time we were his age, which I'm not that much younger than he was at this point, that there would be no forest left, that they would cut down all the trees. And that's just ridiculous. Like, so let's take a company like, Fiber or Weyerhaeuser, or I guess Capstone now. They go out and they're in the business of making paper. And, to do that, they need to cut down the trees. Well, it takes a while to make a tree, or grow a tree. And so, like, the whole line of thought is that, like, they're going to cut down all the trees. Like, companies are going to make sure that they don't use all of the resources up so that they can continue on making money.
This one is great. I think it's trying to convey that, this next one, talking about certain destruction of the planet if we don't turn into commies. It says on here, I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah, because Russia and China both have like stellar freaking, records on environmental causes.
Right, and this is pretty much saying that if we turn to communism, there will be so much less stuff being produced that it will actually save our planet.
Rad. That would be excellent. Like, if you have less stuff being produced, what does that mean for the people that are producing that stuff? That means less jobs. Mm-hmm. Like, what are they supposed to do if they're not producing something? Well, just like get paid for they just get paid anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter if they produce anything. Then people stop showing up for work because they're going to get paid anyways. And then next thing you know, you have bread lines with no bread, starving people to death.
There are many other reasons socialism is superior, but I want to come now to the part that the capitalist can never answer to. Unless there is a planned economy without competition driving production, the environment will be completely destroyed. You cannot have a sustainable environment when every decision on what you do for energy, what you build, what resources and chemicals you use are driven by the needs of private capitalist corporations. First of all, private corporations are not telling anyone else how to produce their product. So
in fact, they'd rather you not produce their product. They want to produce their products so they can get the profits.
Unless that system is ended, there will be irreversible changes in the environment that make life as we know it something of the past. The only way to get real control over environmental damage is through a planned people's economy in which the workers themselves and through their elected representatives decide collectively what is to be built, what energy resources to use, and how to produce any products in a way that meets both human needs and sustains the environment. If they want to say the socialists are utopian dreamers, we would in fact in turn say the further habitation of planet Earth by human beings and others under the capitalist system, that's the dream.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. They're saying,
like, it's so ridiculous. Like, I have a hard time even understanding and comprehending like this like socialist
socialism is better because we're making less stuff, so it's less of a footprint on the environment. But that means all of us get less stuff.
Yeah. Why would you go to work if you can't get more stuff?
Right. You have the same amount of stuff whether you do
whether you work or not,
something or nothing.
So that guarantees pretty much people aren't going to do their best because they know that they don't have to.
All of this seems like it was just written by people who are just a little butthurt that they don't have what their neighbor has.
Yeah, it's called envy. Very much. That's what socialism is. It's envious of people that are doing better in life than you are for whatever reason. And so that they think that instead of me working harder or changing my life, moving out of the parents' basement, everybody should just live in their parents' basement.
Okay, so number 5 says guaranteeing social and economic rights. This is where everybody has to be the same. In a positive way, what can we say about socialism?
Nothing. Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to gain from socialism.
Here, they're pretty much saying the Soviet Union's got it down. So
yeah, that's why it fell.
In the Soviet Union, when you got out of school, you got a job. That job paid you a wage at which you could live.
Yeah, and you didn't get to choose the job, by the way. The government told you what job you were going to use. More than likely, if you were born on a farm, you were going to be a farmer. Unless went through the government testing, they came and found extra special smart people by chance. Or, super talented, pianists. Mm-hmm. Or, they take those people for training so that they can showboat them at the Olympics and try to show their superiority. But
so listen. So this job paid you at a wage in which you could live. Just think if every young person in the United States knew that they were going to have a job when they graduated from school, and you also knew you were going to be given an apartment or a